Yeah, that precisely. Another waffle video coming up here, because I want to incorporate every once in a while discussion about actual music and not just have it be about the tools of music, because music is the driving force behind the love of instruments. Every once in a while, I'm not a massive fan of Rick Beato, but I do appreciate him, what he does. I think he fills a particular niche on YouTube that traverses between music itself and musical instruments, gear, songs, albums, that kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting how he's been able to do that. In a way, he's one of the pioneers that others look to model their channels around. And he's obviously reached a level of acclaim to where he recently had an interview with Brian May, of all people, on his second channel. My God, he's got two channels that are monetized now. I'm sure going really well. By the way, I just wish he hadn't spent so much of that interview asking Brian May about Bohemian Rhapsody. I was itching for other questions, but he seemed to zero in on that song because I think he's doing a video on breaking that song down. So it makes sense, but Brian May just must wish people will ask him about other songs or other albums or other parts of his discography or even his own music. That's a side point. Another thing I've noticed about Rick Beato, and this is when I watched a video with him and Keith Williams from 5 Watt World and another guy, I forget his name, and they were discussing music of today, and Rick was basically defending music of today, saying he found it fascinating and good enough to break down and analyze, even if it was simplistic, even if the recording techniques didn't match that of the classic period. And the other guys were basically countering that by saying, God, it's unlistenable. I can't believe that you spent time doing this. And after watching another few videos, I came to the conclusion that he is a little bit obsessed with what's popular, sort of being the defining music of a certain period. A little bit too obsessed for my liking, although I really enjoy his commentary and his music theory knowledge. And a lot of reference to what's big on the radio, which makes me jar a little bit. Firstly, I don't think the radio is that important anymore. I think the industry's changed to where what's on commercial radio really doesn't matter that much. And even though those songs and those artists make a lot of money, I would say it's not central in people's consciousness as it was 30, 40 years ago. At any given time, in the 80s or even early 90s, we knew what was the number one song, we knew what was in the charts, we knew what was top 40, we knew what was, sort of peaking in the alternative world. Now we don't. It's not that big of a thing anymore. There's no Top of the Pops, there's no top 10, there's no Casey Kasem. There might be, but it's just not as popular as it used to be. And when I get into most people's cars, they don't turn the radio on anymore. A lot of people have satellite, or they plug in a USB, or they plug in their phone and listen to Spotify or Pandora or something like that, or even, collections of songs that they've amassed on their phones, sort of like the iPod days. When you're thinking about analyzing current contemporary music, in my opinion, it's kind of sad to let the top 10 glossy, over-varnished acts or songs or musicians or bands from radio culture, whatever's left of it, be your yardstick. I just think there's so much more out there. I really don't care about, what's huge. I'm conscious that there are the Nicki Minogue, is that her name? Of the world. There, your top your Beyoncés and stuff like that, or whoever is the top rap, R&B / pop artist at the time. And I'm conscious of it, but I don't really pay that much attention to it unless I hear something that I think is remarkable or different or unique. And it's not impossible. Sometimes there's something in the pop world that I think is clever or unique. However, I don't think that we should have what is popular or what makes the most money represent this age of music. There's no excuse for it anymore. I mean, you could go on Bandcamp, you could go on SoundCloud, you could go on the internet, many different sites, and you could pull off dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of bands in multiple genres, whether you're just staying in heavy metal and all those subgenres, or if you're moving to, alternative or indie worlds, or avant-garde, or even like neoclassical, rock and roll type stuff. There's a myriad of bands to listen to, artists to find out about, and music to explore, analyze, and hold up as representative of today's music. There's no reason to sort of pander to the 10 glossy, shiny objects that are held up on, a commercial radio or whatever substitutes for commercial radio. And I find it disappointing when people do that. I don't blame people like Rick for having an interest in or retaining an interest in what the kids are doing, what's popular, and trying to find something edifiable in pop music, because a lot of people our age just turn off. I'm guilty of it. Oh, that's too slick, or I can't stand auto-tune. That's just too synthy, that's too polished, that's too typical. It sounds like everyone else. It's so easy to dismiss stuff. So I admire his stickability at being able to look at high gloss sort of music and find something distinguishing, unique, edifiable in the music. And in some respects, he has a lot more patience than I do. However, I think that you're missing out a lot if that's your focus if that's your barometer for quality, is what sells. And I notice on that channel there's a lot of talk about success in terms of money made or dollar earned or commercial value. And it always makes me sad to see art relegated to those scales, because if you go back to the 60s and 70s, what's popular now, what we think is great about those decades now, isn't what was the most popular at the time. A lot of stuff became appreciated retrospectively, or a few years after, or later in the band's catalog. Their earlier material began to be appreciated. It's the same in the art world. Van Gogh was unknown. Most artists are unknown, struggle throughout their whole lives, may reach a period of acclaim in their lifetime, probably won't. So, judging people by their immediate commercial value, I think, is to miss a lot of what's important about art and music. So I really wish that people would dig a little bit into what's available. It doesn't take much to go on Bandcamp and find 10 bands that are new to you and that are interesting, that sound interesting, that are not just derivative, that are actually trying to do their own thing, that can be representative of music of our day and age. We don't have to settle for just what's popular, what's being marketed by the top, what's left of the record industry, to be our measure of success. And it disappoints me when people who are knowledgeable and who have the acumen and the intelligence of some of these YouTubes to sort of pander to popularity. I guess if you drop those names, you get more clicks, you get more views. So that's a concern as well. You're trying to obviously grow your channel. So I suppose, if you did a video on unknown, obscure artists, you're not going to get the same amount of clicks and views that you would, say, trying to analyze, a Shania Twain song or something of that ilk. I may be dating myself there. But you know what I'm saying. I just think that sometimes it's better to sacrifice a few of those clicks and likes and subscribers to maybe put art and music foremost in the discussion and all the possibilities therein, rather than just reducing the current spate of examples to the common denominator of public acclaim and popularity. As I've said in many videos, what was popular in certain eras in the past in history is unknown now. And what was not popular in those eras is now all we know about those periods. This is exactly true of genres like classical music and jazz. You think of the classical composers that were popular in certain periods, and they're unknown. They're gone. They're your salon composers that wrote derivative, catchy, tuneful, easily consumed pieces that didn't stand the test of time. And then, the more obscure artists are the ones that grew over a period, captured people's attention, and now are known for that period of music. And I wish we would kind of apply some of that wisdom to the pop music world, the rock music world, and understand that whatever's breaking in the moment, or whatever's exploding in the moment, is not necessarily what's going to be best about a particular moment. It might be. I mean, there are things that blow up deservedly, but there are other things that sort of flavor the month and are slowly forgotten over time. And there's much better music to be had if you just look a bit further and you're not so concerned about popularity. So I know this is not a succinct video. I know that this is not clean, but it's been on my mind. And I thought to mention it because I get so much good feedback from people on this channel. And I know that a lot of you watch a lot of these other music channels that I reference once in a while. And you often give me your feedback on it. I don't watch every video from Rick Beato's channel. I kind of pick and choose based on the title. But I've noticed just this little tendency to not pander, but perhaps be a little bit overly concerned about popularity based on immediate acquired wealth and acclaim. Of course, he also analyzes a lot of more obscure stuff, and also is a student of the classic rock periods and the great jazz periods and stuff like that. I'm not trying to say that he is not. He's a ex music professor, so obviously he has some great and wide knowledge. That's just a tendency I wanted to talk about, and I really wish that people would push further out and expose a better class of music, and just kind of not make popularity the number one concern. All right, folks, I'll stop there. I'll see what your response is, and you're free to tell me that I'm full of it if you wish. All right, see you on the next one.